وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُّدَّكِرٍ.
Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to part 2 of lesson 4 of book 1. Today we will talk about the states of ism. An ism in Arabic can take 3 different states depending on its function in a sentence. They are marfu', منصوب, and مجرور. Can you repeat after me? مرفوع, منصوب, مجرور. Let me show you what these states are all about. The good news is that we are already familiar with one of these 3 states, which is the marfu' state. Let me give you an example. كتاب, a book. It is nakira, an indefinite ism. This ism is currently in its marfu' state. This marfu' state is considered to be the normal or default state of ism. Unless something impacts this ism, it remains in its marfu' state. Now let me show you what would be the mansub state of kitabun. Kitaban. Do you see what has changed? The end of it is now tanween fathah instead of tanween dhammah. So it looks like the state of an ism has got something to do with its ending. Interesting, isn't it? Let's now see the majrur state of kitabun. It is kitabin. What happened to it this time? Now it is ending with tanween kasrah. From these examples, we can conclude that for the nakira or indefinite ism, the sign of the marfu' state is tanween dhammah. The sign of the mansub state is tanween fathah. And the sign of majrur state is tanween kasrah. Also notice the letter alif that appears at the end of mansub ism. The rule is, unless the last letter of the word is ta marbuta, we add alif to the end of mansub ism in writing, even though we do not pronounce it. So these are the signs of nakira ism. Now let's see how a ma'rifah or definite ism can become mansub or majrur. Al-kitabu, it is a marfu', normal state of the definite ism. The mansub state would be al-kitabah. What has changed? Again, the ending, right? U ending or dhamma ending became a fathah. Can you guess what could be the majrur state of al-kitabu then? Al-kitabi, right? The end is now kasrah. Al-kitabi. Very good. So for ma'rifah or definite ism, we see the pattern is that marfu' ism gets the dhamma, mansub ism gets the fathah, and majrur gets the kasrah. As you may have noticed here, the difference between nakira and ma'rifah in all 3 different states is that the nakira retains the tanween or noon ending even in mansub or majrur forms, but the ma'rifah doesn't need the noon or tanween ending in any of its states. Not too bad, is it? Let's do some practice with more examples just to feel more comfortable with these states of ism. Let's take mudarrisun, a teacher. What is its state right now? It is in normal marfu' state, right? Can we turn this into mansub state? How do we do that? Change the ending from un to an, from tanween dhamma to tanween fathah. So it will become mudarrisan. How do we make it majrur? Change the ending to in, tanween kasrah. So the ism will become mudarrisin. Another example, najmun, a star. Again, it is a marfu' state. Let's turn it into mansub. Najman, with tanween fathah ending. And how about majrur state? Najmin, with tanween kasrah. Al-masjidu is the masjid, and it is currently in its normal marfu' state. What would be the mansub state? Al-masjidah. Correct. And how about majrur state? Al-masjidi. Very good. Next, we've got as-sa'atu, the watch. What is its state right now? Marfu', right? Let's turn it into majrur. As-sa'ati. As-sa'ati. It's a majrur state. And how about mansub? الساعة. الساعة. Very good. Let's take this word. طبيب. Is it مرفوع, منصوب, or مجرور? مجرور, right? What is the منصوب state then? طبيبا. Very good. And finally, the normal or مرفوع state is طبيب. How about this ism? السريرة. What is the state of this ism? It is منصوب, right? Let's get مرفوع state. السرير. Good. How about مجرور state? السرير. Very nice. Keep in mind that the default state of an ism is مرفوع. Unless something interacts with it or impacts it somehow, it stays in its default normal state. Now, you may ask, what can impact an ism? To see this in action, let's take the word al-ghurfatu, the room. It is currently sitting alone by itself, so it is in its normal default marfu' state. What if I want to say in the room? The word in Arabic is fi. If I put fi before al-ghurfatu, then the whole thing will become fil ghurfatu. So fil ghurfatu would translate to in the room, right? Well, not really. You see, this fi is actually harf. And it is a special type of harf called harf jar. Unlike other harf like wa or nam, this harf interacts with what is coming after it. It changes the state of the ism coming after it to be majrur. That is why this is called harf jar. So with the impact of fi, the ism al-ghurfatu now needs to be al-ghurfati. So together we read it as fil ghurfati. Fil ghurfati means in the room. What if I want to say in a room instead of in the room? The answer is simple. Instead of using al-ghurfati, I use the nakira form, which is what? Ghurfatin. So in a room will be fi ghurfatin. Got it? Let's take another example. Al-masjidu, the masjid, and I want to turn this to in the masjid. How am I going to do that? I bring in the harf jar fi before it, which means in, and because it is harf jar, what happens to al-masjidu? It becomes al-masjidi. So together we read the phrase as fil masjidi. Here, fi is harf jar, and al-masjidi is ism majrur, which simply means the ism that is in majrur state. Or we can shorten it and call this phrase jar wa majrur, okay? Let's build the nakira form of the same phrase. So instead of in the masjid, let's say in a masjid. So how do we say it? Fi masjidin, right? Instead of al-masjidi, we are using the nakira form of majrur, which is masjidin. So the phrase will be fi masjidin. But the terminologies are the same, which is jar wa majrur. Jar majrur. If these new terminologies are confusing you, do not worry. I'll keep repeating them many more times in the next videos, inshallah. Now, I would like to introduce another harf jar to you. Ala, which means on. This harf has the same effect as fi to the ism coming after it. For example, let's take a desk. Maktabun. If I want to say on a desk, I put ala before it, and because it is harf jar, maktabun will take the majrur state, which is maktabin. So we got ala maktabin, on a desk. Ala here is harf jar, and maktabin is ism majrur. So we've got another jar wa majrur here. Now let's say on the desk using the ma'rifah form of maktabun. What will change? Instead of maktabin, we should use al-maktabi. So our new phrase will be ala al-maktabi. Let's take one last example before we do an exercise. I want to say on the rock. Try to imagine a big flat rock. How do I say on the rock? The rock was al-hajaru. And I put ala before it and it will become ala al-hajaru, right? Did I miss something? Ah, yes. Al-hajaru needs to be majrur. So it will be ala al-hajari. Very nice. I think we are now ready to do exercise 2 in the middle of page 22. In this exercise, we need to be able to read the words and phrases properly with the correct ending. Let's start with the first word. How do I read the first word here? Al-madrasatu, the school. Because it is by itself, it needs to be in its normal مرفوع state. Al-madrasatu. The next phrase. How do we read it? في المدرسة. Not في المدرسة. It must be في المدرسة. Because we've got harf jar, the ism al-madrasatu needs to be مجرور. So together, we've got jar مجرور. في المدرسة, which means in the school. Next word. في البيت, right? In the house. We've got another jar مجرور phrase here. في is harf jar and al-bayti is ism مجرور. Next one. We've got an ism by itself. What was the default normal state of ism? مرفوع. We've got to read this as al-baytu, the house. Next. Al-ghurfatu. Good. Because again, this ism is coming by itself. It needs to end with u because it is مرفوع. Al-ghurfatu, the room. Next one. This is a new word. Al-hammamu, which means the bathroom. Al-hammamu. It is مرفوع because there is nothing interacting with it. The next word is also a new for us. Al-matbakhu, which means the kitchen. But here it is coming after harf jar, fi. So we read it as fil matbakhi. Fil matbakhi means in the kitchen. Al matbakhi is coming as ism majroor. Next one. A single ism. Al maktabu. It is in marfu' state, ending with u or dhamma. Next. Ala al maktabi. We have another jar majroor phrase or harf jar followed by ism majroor. Ala al-maktabi means on the desk. Next one. Ala al-kursiyi. Very good. I hope you're getting used to it. Ala is harf jar and al-kursiyi is ism majroor. So together, ala al-kursiyi is jar majroor phrase, which means on the chair. Next, it looks like we've got a single word. We've got to use normal default state, which is marfu'. As-sariru. Simply means the bed. As-sariru. How about the next phrase? We've got another jar majroor. Ala al-kitabi, right? What does it mean? On the book. And the final one, we already saw this earlier. Fil masjidi, which means in the masjid. Again, we're looking at jar wa majroor here. Fi is harf jar and al-masjidi is ism majroor. We are done with this exercise. Let's quickly summarize what we've learned in this video. We learned about 3 states of ism, which were marfu', mansub, and majroor. The marfu' is the normal state that ends with u or un, as in al-kitabu or kitabun. Mansub state ends with a or an, as in al-kitaba or kitaban. And majroor state ends with e or in, as in al-kitabi or kitabin. And we learned a couple of harf jar type words that change the state of the ism coming after it to majroor. We don't know much about mansub state yet. We will learn about when an ism becomes mansub after a few lessons, inshallah. Let's finish this video here and continue learning new concepts next time. Until the next video, Assalamu alaikum.